Good afternoon, and welcome to Budget Busting Christmas. My name's Alex, and I'm one of the roving chefs that work for Vegetarian for Life. If you watched any of these cookery demonstrations before and you've come back, thank you for returning. It's the first time. You're more than welcome. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed. So do press that subscribe button. So you'll notice I'm not wearing my usual hat. Obviously, this is a Christmas themed one, so I thought I'd get in the spirit and wear my Santa hat just to kind of give it a bit of a Christmas vibe, I guess. Okay, so over the next 3/4 of an hour to an hour thereabouts, I want to show you some beautiful recipes. I've got 4 lovely recipes that are focused on being delicious and celebratory, but also looking at budget as well. So I've got a number of recipes to make for you. I'm going to make some mincemeat muffins, one of my favourites. I've been making these about 3 years since I came across the recipe. Really, really lovely recipe. I'm also going to make a delicious, rich fruit cake, and I've got some tips for changing things and making things a bit easier and a bit simpler and using leftovers and stuff as we go along. I'm also going to make some fritters, which based on the Greek fritter recipe we've got on our website, but I'm kind of like changing it a bit just to sort of use up some ingredients that you may have left over after Christmas Day. And finally, I'm going to make some lovely shortbread biscuits, really easy to make and delicious. You can flavour them with anything and everything as you want. So let's start with our mincemeat muffins. Now, these really easy things to make. Everything I'm making is vegan, by the way. Now, the mincemeat muffins, it's quite a simple recipe, but we start off with some, let's move my spoon out of the way, start off with some oil. Now, this is just ordinary vegetable oil. I wouldn't use any olive oil because it's got a strong flavour. So any sort of non-flavorful oil is fine. And to that, I'm going to put in some sugar. Now, I've got white sugar here. If you prefer to use brown sugar, use brown sugar. It's still going to be just as lovely. It's just going to have a little darker colour and maybe a richer flavour with that dark sugar. But I'm just using white sugar, which works really well. So let's give that a bit of a stir. Make sure there's no lumps and bumps in there. And to that, I'm going to add some water. Now, this recipe may seem a little wet when you're making it. I'll show you when we get to that stage. That's exactly as it should be. The mixture shouldn't be like a cake mix. It shouldn't be that sort of thick. If you're familiar with what it should look like, it's more of a batter, like a thick batter for pancakes. So just give that a whisk. Now, adding extra stuff to this, you can put in, spices, cinnamon, cardamom, whatever you fancy. But in this, okay, so this is mincemeat, and of course, make sure if you're making this that you choose a vegetarian version. There used to be an inclusion of animal fat in them, but it doesn't seem to be so much these days. But do double check. So you just need to check on the label if it says it's suitable for vegetarians or vegans. So in we go with that. Now, if you wanted to make this recipe, but you haven't got any mincemeat, but you've got some dried fruit, then just simply swap it over and add a few more spices to it. That's all. It will still turn out to be delicious. Sometimes if I'm a bit short with the mincemeat, then I top it up with currants and sultanas and things like that. But either way, it's still lovely. Now, I'm also going to put a little bit of vanilla. I just love the taste of vanilla. A little splash of vanilla in there. And we're almost done. It really is as easy as that. Just give it a stir, and then we can add our flour to it. Now I'm just going to grab my sieve. I'll pop it through the sieve so there are no little lumps in there or anything that shouldn't be in there. So a nice tap like so. Sometimes you find you've not been using the flour for a while, you can end up with, you see these little lumps here. I'm also going to put in some baking powder, and this is just to give it a little rise. And again, if you put it through a sieve like so, you'll make sure that you don't get any lumps going through. Because if you would ever taste it, it's quite bitter, it's quite unpleasant. But by just putting it through the sieve like so, actually I'll just put a little bit more in there, it means that you won't get that sort of nasty surprise. There we go. So that was self-raising flour, I beg pardon, self-raising flour. And we're nearly done. So I'll put that back there for the moment. And then just give this a bit of a stir to bring it together. Now, if you want to make these and give them as gifts, I'm going to talk about making things as gifts. What a nice thing to do is obviously make them as close as to the time that you're going to give them and put them in an airtight container. But you can put them in a presentation box. You can buy the little sort of gift boxes and sort of stack 6 or so in there, which is nice. But do bake them as close as you can to when they're going to be given, because you might think, oh, well, I've given them now, but they're not necessarily going to be eaten just then. So, if you can bake them the day before you give them, and maybe even put a best before on there as well, just to let people know that they need to eat them up. But the other thing I was going to say was to include the recipe in the pack, so people sort of know where it's come from, and if they want to recreate it, then they can do. So if I just get my spoon here, and you'll be able to see how sort of liquid or this is, and then you'll know that when you make it, and you think, oh, it looks a bit wet. No, it should be like this. I'm just going to move this out of the way, put that down over there, and bring up my cases. Now, what I've done is I've just put a little bit of margarine at the bottom of the tray, just to stick these down a little bit, because they'll have it bouncing out. So just a little extra thing to do there. So the thickness is, I'm going to lift this forward. You can sort of see it. It's sort of like that. Whereas other cakes, if you're making like a sponge cake, it's a lot thicker, a lot stodgier. But this one isn't. But when it cooks, it will be lovely. I'm going to get a cloth here. Carry on with batter mix all over me. There we go. So all we're going to do now is just to spoon carefully our mixture in like so, and put it about 3/4 of the way up, because what will happen, obviously it's going to rise, so if you put too much in, then it's just going to spill out all over the place and then make a mess. So let's get these in. So my oven is on, gas mark 4, seems to be the default temperature setting for most baked things. However, the next thing I'm going to make, well, not just next, a little bit in a minute or two, is a sponge cake. Sorry, is a fruit cake, which is a lot lower setting. So let's get some of these in. Now there will be a bit of batter mix left in this bowl. I'm not going to waste it, but I'm just going to get this in now, so that we can see them when they're done. There we go. Once more on there for the chef. There we go. Right. So pop that to one side, and then what I've got in here is some dark brown sugar and also some cinnamon. And all I'm going to do is just sprinkle this, mix it up, and then sprinkle it on the top. And then what will happen is, as the muffin rises, you'll get a nice crunchy, flavourful bit on the top as a nice treat. So on we go like that, and then we can pop them into the oven, and they'll be done in about 15 minutes. So you'll be able to see these when they come out nice and warm. There we go. So there's our first bake, I guess. So lovely to give them as a gift, but do make them close to the time that you're going to give them. So let's get these in the oven, and then we'll move on to our next dish. There we go. Okay, a little tidy down. There we go. So the next thing I want to show you how to make is some lovely shortbread biscuits. Now these are lemon shortbread biscuits. Let me just bring my ingredients up so you can see them. So I've got some sugar, white sugar. You can use brown sugar if you want, and I've got some vegan margarine. Now, do recommend to leave this in the fridge until the last moment when you're creating this. Otherwise, it'll start to melt, and it'll stick to your surface. I've also got some flour. Now, it's just ordinary plain flour. Now, on the recipe, it says gluten-free, and I've made these gluten-free, and they are absolutely lovely. So if you're, got a guest coming or you're gluten intolerant yourself, then do go for, do make them with gluten-free flour. They do work really well. But I've actually just got sort of standard flour here. Now, as a flavouring, I've got a little bit of lemon zest in here, and it's amazing how much flavour you get just from the zest of one lemon. If you want to do it with orange, you do it with orange. I've done that before, it's lovely. I haven't tried grapefruit, but I think that might work quite well too. But again, you can put spices and other things in it. So let me grab my bowl, and we can start to create these. So the first thing I want to do is just put the fat into my bowl, like so, and the flour. This is where it gets a little bit messy, so you need to get your hands in, and it's like making a crumble, I guess. You're just kind of making breadcrumbs with this. So what I'm going to do eventually is to bring this together as a ball, and then very, very carefully roll it out and cut it into shapes, and then bake it in the oven. Now, they take about 12 minutes to cook in the oven, but if you're trying to put lots of different things into the oven, then this is quite a nice thing to sort of tuck away somewhere, because unlike a sponge cake where you don't want to be opening the door of your oven because it's probably going to sink down, these it doesn't matter with this. It really doesn't matter. Like a flapjack, it doesn't matter. Now, what I found is, depending on the type of flour you use, you may want to put a tiny bit of water in to this mixture just to bring it together. Now, I say a tiny bit, and I really just mean like a couple of teaspoons, that's all. Depending on the fat that you've got, different margarines have got different water content levels, depending on the type of flour you use. If you use brown flour, there's bran in there, and that's going to be absorbent. And of course, depending if you're using gluten-free flour, which this works really well with that, also depends on the brand you've got with that. So kind of use your judgment. If it's really just falling apart because it's too dry, then just add a little bit of water, and it will bring it together. But only, it really will be like a couple of teaspoons. That's all. So nothing major. So what we're after, if you can see that, I'll bring this forward so you can see, is a sort of a breadcrumb texture. So let's just make sure we've not got sort of lots of flour at the bottom. Now, to give this some nice flavour, we're going to put in the zest of the lemon, and also we can sweeten this with some sugar, like so. With a bit of a stir, and we can start to gather this together to roll it out. And I've also got some additional flour here just to roll it on my board. So if you are doing gluten-free, obviously you're going to buy some gluten-free flour, but then don't always remember that you've got to make sure that all your surfaces are clean. If you're a regular baker, sometimes you get a little bit of flour stuck down in a rolling pin, so you can't use that. You need to make sure that it's completely gluten-free, because obviously some people are very sensitive to that. And of course, when you're rolling your mixture out, and the temptation, of course, is just to put some flour down on there. No good. So use some of the gluten-free flour. So what I should be able to do is start to bring this together, like so. And you can see that it is starting to come together. But if it was a little bit you know, if it just felt as though it's just a little bit crumbly, then do add just a little splash of water to it, and that will help to bring it together. So I'm not going to make a full batch of these now, because it's a bit boring watching me roll these things out. So I'm just going to bring a couple together. I'll let you into a secret. I made some of these earlier, so they kind of tucked over there. So I didn't know whether I was going to confess that, but I think I better, because you'll see the tray and you'll see, oh, hold on a minute, there's more biscuits coming out than went in. So there we go. So let's pop our flour on the surface there, and then just start to carefully roll them out. Now, I've got a cutter here. It's just a start. If you get a festive theme, then get a festive theme. Now, one of the things that's really nice about sort of doing homemade biscuits, I think I'm just going to get a little bit of water with it. It just feels just a little tiny bit. There we go. Just a tiny bit in there. There we go. Oh, that's better. So what I was saying about the cutter, obviously this is going to be a Christmas theme, so you know, holly and all sorts of things like that. But if you make them slightly larger, or you know, like a proper biscuit size, you can actually pipe names on them, so they become really lovely and personalised. And it's just, you know, it's just one of those little things that really does make a difference. If you're doing this as an activity, if you've got a family or a caterer, you're working in a care home, you may use this as an activity with your family and with your residents. You know, this is the sort of thing you can easily do. Just need a little bit of cooperation and coordination with the kitchen. So let's just pop those down, and then we can roll this out. I'll just do two blobs. So do be quite, you know, push it together, and then before you start rolling it, just give it a squash like so, and then turn it over. So you've got a little bit of flour on here so that it won't stick on your rolling pin. So in we go with that, very carefully, very carefully, like so. Now, if you want to put a dusting of sugar on the top before they go into the oven, that's really lovely, because it sort of starts to melt and gets crunchy and stuff. Or you can leave it completely plain, which I am going to today. There's plenty of sugar, obviously, in the biscuits that are sweet enough. But I'm also going to do some ice decorations on there as well. So that's going to have additional sugar on there. So all we do then, bring our tray up like so. And then just cut these into whatever shape you fancy. So, I mean, you can obviously do these. This is a sort of Christmas theme, but you know, any time of the year, if there's a theme, you could do that. You do gingerbread men as a shortbread. Really lovely activity, like so. So there we have our little biscuits, like so. So I'm just going to tidy down. I will bake those, but because I've got those other things in the oven, I'm not going to put them in just yet. But I'm not going to waste any of the things that I've got here. So let's move that out of the way, and we can have a clean surface. And then, yeah, I couldn't get away with that, could I? I couldn't pretend that I'd baked all of these. I realised when I was kind of practicing this morning that now I'm going to have to confess. But when they come out of the oven, they are still soft. So if you're waiting for them to get crispy while they're in the oven, you'll keep putting them back in, and they won't get crispy. So it's only when they cool will they start to get nice and you know, like a nice snap to them. So what you can do from here is just make that a little tidier. You can buy icing kits like these. Really kind of easy things to have. And then we've got some different colours here. So we're just going to go for a red. And you can just play around. Right, so obviously if you had a holly leaf, you can do some berries and extra bits on there. But I think, you know, just with these little let's put some green on as well. We also put someone's name on there. Now, I said about the size of these things. Obviously, these are quite small. So, you know, if someone's got a long name, Alexander, that's not going to go on there. But you can put an A on there, and it's just a nice little touch. Put these in a nice jar, and then include the recipe if you like. And it just makes it a bit special. There is a, you know, a worthiness, I guess, when it comes to gifts that are homemade. You know, they're sort of well intended, but you know, is it quite as good? I always like getting homemade stuff, but you know, sometimes something that's made by a manufacturer can be better. But look, you know, just with these, you know, within a few seconds, bring this over so you can see it. Just within a few seconds or so, you know, you can create some lovely iced messages on there. You know, so you know, if you've got, you know, you could use a different letter on each of the biscuits to spell out someone's name. And again, put the recipe in with it, put it in a nice jar, put a ribbon around it. Really, you know, should go down a treat. But yeah, give these a try. Oh, look, I'm not going to eat one now because I'm talking, but you know, they've got a lovely snap to them, really delicious. And those are the last couple of days. So you could perhaps make these, and also the mincemeat muffins and put those together. Really lovely treat. Okay, right, so that's that. So let's put these to one side. I'm going to have a treat later, nibbling all of those things. Now, on Christmas Day, often you end up with leftovers. Now, one of the traditions I have is just doing a fry up. You know, it just goes in and you just have a lovely fry up. But you can actually turn it into all sorts of different dishes. So what I want to show you how to make is a korma. Now, the recipe for this is on our website. It's also, we've got there's a blog on this theme. So if you find the blog on our website, you'll see the link to the recipes there. But with this one, I'm kind of keeping with, let me grab my pan. I'm keeping with the actual flavors and the spices, but the vegetables I'm going to change. So I do apologize about the beeping. So first, I just want to get my oil in there. Anyone that's watched these things before know that I like to get my onions in to cook. So let's let they can do their own thing there. So this is a korma, and it's a really lovely dish to make that if you've got a lot of people come in and you're not sure whether they like spices, or you've got children, you've got older people, because with a korma it's nice and creamy. If you want to make it a bit hotter, you know, add a bit of spice to it, you know, chili, that sort of thing, obviously you can, but this should kind of hit the mark for everyone. So the base curry part you make first, and then you add your leftover veg. Now, I wouldn't put just any old veg in here at all, but most things you can. So, for instance, I've got here some cauliflower, some sprouts. Always have sprouts on Christmas Day. I've got some carrots, parsnips, and green beans. Now, on the recipe, it's fresh stuff. So you've got peppers and courgettes and spinach and other ingredients like that. But you know, take all those out and use up what you've got left over, rather than just having a simple fry up, but then flavour it with all the spices and herbs and things that you would make in your korma. Now the thing is, the irony is, this is budget saving tips. So the irony is I actually made these to have them as leftovers. But anyway, these are already cooked. So you don't want to put them in at the start, because they're going to end up being overcooked. So you just put them in towards the end to just flavour and warm through. So I just want to get a little bit of colour on my onions. A little bit more oil in there. Now, the rest of the ingredients. What we've got here, I've got quite a healthy dollop of ginger and a healthy dollop of garlic. I want this to have a rich flavour. I want it to be a lovely, lovely flavour. Not spicy, not hot, but just nice and and warming. The ginger is the spice that will give it a little bit of heat, but not too much. It's going to have lots of flavour, but not too much heat. So I've also got some coconut milk. Now, I was debating about buying the low fat, but effectively the low fat one is just got more water in it. So it's the same price. So if you are watching the calorie count in your food, then if you bought the full fat and only put half in, rather than buy a whole can, put all of it in, and then use it for another day. You can freeze it afterwards and use it for something else. So it's just kind of one of those peculiarities, particularly with coconut milk. I've also got some spices. Now, whatever spices you want to put in. So if you've got a generic spice mix, I know that we kind of look down upon generic spice mixes, Madras curry powder, but they do work, they do. So I've got in here some paprika, some turmeric, I've got cumin, and I've also got coriander in here. So I've got about a teaspoon of each of those. So it's going to have a lovely rich flavour, but I haven't got any chili in there. And it's starting to smoke. So this is the sort of thing, if you just want something completely different from the food that you've been having, all these spices and things will really kind of give a nice punchy flavour. So let's get our ginger and garlic in. And turn that down a fraction. The smell there, when that ginger went in, it's just like, oh, it's lovely. It's really, really delicious. So we can put in our spices. Now, I don't want to burn the spices, so I'm going to put in a splash of water just to cool my pan down. I do apologise about all this steam. I hope you can see me. A little extra. I'll raise this pan up now so you can sort of see it. So what I'm trying to create, aside the steam, is a lovely curry base. Really, lots and lots of flavour in there. The steam will disappear in a second. It's because it's quite cold in the house. So there we go. So you can see that now. But let me bring this over so you can get a better look. I'm saying better look. You can see all that steam, but look at the colour on that. Lovely, vibrant colour on there. So to give this a bit of extra protein, I've got some ground almonds in here. Now, if you don't want to put the almonds in, I would put something in there that's going to add a little bit of protein in there. So you could put in a tin of chickpeas, if you like. We could put in our coconut milk. There we go. That's just going to bubble away. A messy cook today. That's just going to bubble away and cook. So I'm not putting my veg at the minute. It still wants to reduce and do its own thing. So let's just give that a bit of a stir. So hopefully you can start to see this now. What's all this steam? Open a window. Get rid of some of this. There we go. So you can hopefully see we've got this wonderful curry base. So almost anything you could put in here, but I wouldn't put in mashed potatoes because it's just going to make it far too thick and gloopy. But just about anything else you fancied could go in there. Now, to make this a little sweeter, as kormas are, I've got some mango chutney. So in we go with the mango chutney. Just let that do its own thing. I've also got a little stock. Now, do make sure if you're making something that's vegetarian or vegan, that you don't spoil it by putting in something like a meat oxo cube, or a meat branded stock cube. Just a little thing that just makes the difference. It just wouldn't be suitable then. So a little bit of care with that. Let's just let that cook down. So it's really tempting to want to put the veg in, but because I know it's already cooked and cauliflower can get quite soft quite quickly, then I just don't want to put it in there. I've also got some fresh spinach in here. Now I wasn't going to put any in because I was just going to completely use the leftover veg. But when I went to my local shop, it was on discount, so I thought, it's in keeping with the theme of budget busting Christmas. So I thought, well, I'm going to put this in. So in we go with our spinach, and now we can put in our veg. So we've got cauliflower, we've got sprouts, and we've got some green beans. Let's move this out of the way. And then all we need to do is to cook this through, make sure all the veg has been coated in the sauce, and there you have a delicious kind of reinvention of your Christmas meal, or kind of any leftovers really. But it's just instead of having that that classic fry up, which is lovely, I do like that, to be honest. Nice sort of like brunch type thing, but this just turns it into something sort of unique as a dish. Of course, if you were doing a Sunday dinner and you cook extra, then you put them, the extra veg, put them in the fridge, and then on Monday or Tuesday you can then create this dish with those vegetables. So by kind of cooking more, it won't cost you more, relatively speaking, in terms of gas or electric to cook them, but it will save you a bit of money because they don't need to be cooked that much at this stage. So it just kind of saves a little bit of money with there. So I know it's very steamy in here, it's a bit difficult to see, but if I bring this over, and hopefully you can see what vibrant colours are in there. And obviously, there's some sprouts in there. You kind of think, well, a curry with sprouts, what's going on? But it's also a little bit of fun. It's a sort of a little bit of fun about that. But if you weren't a fan of sprouts, then obviously you're not going to put them in. But that's it. It's done. Absolutely lovely. Serve this with some nice bread or some rice, and you've got a lovely meal. Okay, right. So let's move on to our next recipe. Let's pop this to one side. Have a little tidy down. There we go. So this next recipe, shall I have a look in the oven? Check those buns. They're looking good. They're looking good. Okay, so this next recipe is a play on one of the recipes we've got, which is Greek fritters. So the Greek fritter recipe, tell you what, let's do this while I'm chatting. Turn that down a bit. There we go. The Greek fritter recipe, and we go our onions, is a combination of grated carrot and onion, and you can put mushrooms in there, you can put courgettes in there, all grated. And what you do is you just saute those veg together, and then you add your spices and herbs, add some flour. It's gram flour with that particular recipe, and then you fry them as little pancakes. Really lovely recipe. Greek fritters. Now, What I was thinking about when I was like, you know, going to do this, I thought, well, you know, it doesn't have to be those ingredients. You can still use the same flavorings and spices, but you know, let's continue with the theme of using what we've got left over. So I've still got some of these veg, so the sprouts and the carrots and parsnips and whatnot, but I've also got some mashed potatoes in here. Now the mashed potatoes are going to work really well to hold the fritters together. So I still want to cook my onions. I could put them in raw, but because this is cooked, it's just a matter of kind of browning the outside of the little things. Whereas just these need a little longer. So I want to make sure that these are cooked well, and then I'm going to mix them in and create little patties. And it's, you know, like a sort of a nice thing on Boxing Day night or the day after that, because, you know, depending on how much spare you've got. But really, anything you've got can go in this. If you've got some spare nut roast, or you've got some bit of cranberry sauce, that can go in. You know, all sorts of different things. You know, just get inventive with it, and then kind of use your judgment on how dry it is or wet it is, and then add a little bit of flour to that just to bind it together. Now, on the original recipe, it's gram flour, it's chickpea flour, which is really healthy. Well, it's a good source of protein. But I'm actually just using white flour with this one, but you can use either. So let's just give this a little bit of a stir. So this is the sort of thing that you really need to do. So you can put them in raw, but you know, raw onions, it's just not, it doesn't quite work, I don't think. So when you've got a nice, you know, they're starting to brown and become a little translucent, then you can put your spices in, and we've got ginger again and garlic again in this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix this with some of my ingredients here to create little, I guess, veggie burgers. They're fritters, but I guess they're kind of veggie burgers. For those of us of a certain age, veggie burgers used to be kind of, I guess, just vegetables pressed together. And that's what I know we've got all sorts of weird and wonderful things available in the supermarkets these days, but that's kind of old school type thing. But it's a really lovely way to use up what you've got. Now, I think my buns are done. So let's have a quick peek at these. Oh, yes, they're done. Sorry for disappearing, but these are lovely mincemeat muffins. So if you wanted to do it, put a dusting of iced sugar on the top, but they're absolutely lovely as they are. So these really were the ones that went in the oven. I didn't make these earlier. So, you know, in real time, 15-20 minutes, depending on how much batter mix you put into your there we go. Depending on how much batter mix you put into your case, but they'll rise up. You know, you can take one out and test it. But as they cool, they will start to firm up a little bit on the top. Okay, right. So we're nearly done with this. So I've got a nice bit of brown on there. To that we can add our garlic and ginger. Here we go with that. Little stir, and also our spices. Woo! So our spices. Let me just come around so you can see what spices we've got. Really, it's up to you. Whatever spice you want to use, just go for it. But if you follow the recipe that is for the Greek fritters, and this is kind of a variant of that, you'll have a dill. You can use mixed herbs instead if you just want to get mixed herbs. I've also got cumin, really lovely aromatic spice. I do enjoy that. I've got some coriander. I've also got some paprika. So if you want to make this a bit spicy, you know, a little bit of chili in there is nice. I often do that. But and some salt and pepper in there. But also, I don't know if you can sort of see this, but I've got some lemon zest in here, and it really does make a difference by using the lemon zest. It really kind of makes things zing. So in we go with that. Give that a little stir, just to bring out the nice aromatic flavours from the spices. And then all we're going to do is start to combine our mashed potato. Let's move this out of the way so you see what we're doing, with some of the other veg. Right, so the potato will stick things together. So depending on the type of potato you've got. So if you've made mashed potato and you've got sort of soy milk in there or cream or whatnot, and fat, it might be a bit wetter. So you may want to add some flour just to bring it together. But because I made this knowing I didn't have to do that. I shouldn't need to. Let's put in our spices in like so. There we go. And then just give it a bit of a mix. So you combine all your ingredients and then get your hands in to shape little kind of fritters. If your veg are a bit big, then just chop them up. And then all we do is just give them a shape and a gentle fry, and that's it. So I just get my hands in there, and just like so, and then you just create little patties like so. So you can put the heat back on, splash more oil in there. And we can create just little fritter things. So we'll have a nice crispy edge to them, and obviously all those spices in there, and the lemon just gives it that sort of little zing in there. So if you've got some cranberry sauce as well, you've got a little dollop of cranberry sauce in there. But kind of look at it and judge. Do you need a bit of flour or not? If you don't, then you don't need to put it in. And if you do, then just put a little bit in. So it's just a nice way of using up some of the veg in a way that you may not have thought about doing. We've also got some other recipes sort of similar to this, sort of fritter type recipes, with different combinations of spices and things like that. But there we go. Lovely little treat. Let's get rid of these now. We can turn our fritters over and hopefully get a nice bit of colour on there. It's just a simple thing to do to use up whatever you've got in. So if you've got some nut roast, if you've got some bread sauce left over, anything like that, then you can combine it together, taste it first, give it a good season. With all those spices and things going on, it really is going to be a nice treat for whoever's going to enjoy them. So it's just another simple idea about using leftover ingredients. Okay, lovely. Okay, so let's move on to our last recipe. Yes, it is our last recipe. So this is one that I've been wanting to save till the end. It really is a lovely thing to make, and it's a rich fruit cake. So let's just turn that over. There's my pen. So this dish is like a Christmas cake. It's that sort of indulgent cake. So let's bring all our ingredients together. There we go. So I have, there's quite a few ingredients, but you can really cut back on this. You know, you don't have to use all these ingredients. There's all sorts of different swaps in it. So I've got some flour. So I've got plain flour. I've also got a little bit of bicarbonate soda in there, which is just going to hopefully give it a bit of a raise to make it slightly lighter, but it's a fruit cake, so it's got that sort of slightly heavier texture. I've also got some fruit in here as well. Now on the recipe, it's candied peel and it's mixed fruit and cherries. Now you can swap and change as you want, as long as you keep the rough quantity in there, then you're going to end up with the right sort of consistency. Now, one thing, if you've not got candied peel, or you've got a bit of marmalade left over, a dollop of marmalade in there, it's not going to make such a difference in terms of the actual texture of it, but it will add a lovely bit of flavour to that. So this was just like a fairly coarse cut marmalade. So it's instead of having the candied peel, hey, put them both in. I've also got some black treacle as well, which gives it a lovely rich flavour. A little bit of brandy, some spices and some sugar, ground almonds and fat and cherries, and a little bit of soy milk. So let's bring my large bowl up and we can start to make this. Now before we do that, I just want to show you this. So this is the tin size that I'm going to use for this cake, and you'll notice, I don't know if you can see that, I put a little bit of margarine on the inside, and this is just to stick or help the parchment to stick down properly. You can just cut a circle and a strip and put a circle at the bottom of the strip, or careful, just fold this in like so, and then that bit of margarine will just help for it to stick at the bottom. Now I must say hello to a group I was doing a cookery demonstration in recently near Chester. It's the Opal group, so if you are watching, hello and have a happy Christmas. And any other groups that the chefs have been involved with, we all wish you a happy Christmas, of course. Now if you are interested in having a cookery demonstration, if you work with an older person's group, then do get in touch, and we'd be lovely to come and do a cookery demonstration for you in person if we can. Right. The other thing I just wanted to say is do have a look on our website. We've got lots and lots of information on there. We've got recipes, we've got information on nutrition, we've got lots of over 1,500 now care homes signed up for best practice. If you're watching this and you're working in a care home, and do and you're not signed up, and then do have a look at how to do that. It really is straightforward, but it's just basically respecting people's choices and doing a good deal, which is what you do anyway. So do have a look at that. Also, lots of information on recipes and good nutrition. Now, the last thing I just want to say about that is, if you are at a care home and you're not signed up, then you won't receive automatically all of the latest publications we've got. So, and if you are, you will get them. So it's definitely worth doing them. So we've got a new guide, which is texture modified food for vegans. So, so the IDSI, and that's brand now. We're just mailing those out. We've also got a lovely calendar with 12 lovely recipes for each month, which is just finished, and that's going out. So if you're watching from a care home and you're interested, then do get in touch, and we'd love you to sign up and become members. So right, enough about that. Let's go back to our cake. So all I want to do is to just push this very carefully into the edges of the tin. So it really makes a difference by having that extra bit of margarine that just sticks it down nicely. So there we have it. It's just a little time saving trick like that. So back to our cake. I do like doing this. I really do. I get a lot of pleasure doing this. So the first thing I want to start off with is our fruit. Oh, yes, spoon. There we go. So in we go with our fruit. So it's quite a lot of fruit. So I've got mixed fruit. I've got cranberries in there. I've got sultanas in there. I've also got I love these. It's kind of, I'm a child of the late 60s, but you know, growing up in the 70s, glassy cherries was the thing. I thought it was a business. Give a bit of a stir, and to that add some brandy. Now, if you've not got brandy, whiskey's fine. But while I'm chatting, but if you wanted to make this without any alcohol at all, then if you just swap the brandy for some orange juice, and that will just kind of add that extra bit of moisture and a little bit of flavour as well. I think it's nice with the brandy, but of course, if you don't have alcohol in your diet, even though it's a small amount, it doesn't matter. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Then obviously you're not going to put that in there. But you could put flavourings in there as well. But do check the label in case they have got a small amount of alcohol in there, which is obviously important. You're not going to have that in your diet. Also, a splash of red wine vinegar, and I can pop in the marmalade. So this marmalade is the thing that I was saying is replacing the candied peel. I couldn't get any hold of candied peel, but I could get hold of some marmalade. So in we go with that. Now, if you want to let this stand overnight, you can, or leave it half an hour or so, just for the things to plump up. Then do so. The smell, the brandy just got me there. It's just, oh, that's Christmas. Yeah, lovely. Right, okay. So let's carry on putting the rest of our ingredients in here. So I've got some treacle. This is a black treacle. It really gives it a lovely dark colour, but also a delicious flavour. So I'm going to put in. I love this stuff. We've got a great recipe, and I know I keep mentioning this particular recipe, sticky toffee pudding, which has got like 3 big spoonfuls. Well, it does when I make it. So in we go with that. That's definitely worth a try. I'm going to put another one in. Why not? So if you haven't got this, and this is one of those ingredients that it really will make a difference if you've got it or you've not got it. But if you've got very, very dark brown sugar, then that will have a similar flavour. But you could put, a flavoured syrup in there instead if you've got some of that in your store cupboard. So let's give that a bit of a stir, and we can put in our soy milk, and we go with that, and our fat. So that's the vegan margarine. I've only got a few other things to put in there. So I've got the flour, I've got my spices. Now you can put in, as I've been saying, you put in what you like. Mixed spice is a combination of mix of different spices, which is perfect for this. Or you could put in some cinnamon, nutmeg in there, and a little bit of cardamom. That's nice. Sort of Christmas spices. A bit of mace is lovely. That's going to go in a moment. But I just want to give this a stir, so I'll mix up. So this eventually is going to go into the oven for about 2 hours 15, thereabouts. Now, but it's going to be on a very low heat, so it's not the sort of thing you can put in the oven with other stuff that is obviously a lot hotter. It would just cook too quickly, and at the top would burn. It wouldn't dry out in the way that it needs to. So you do need to set a bit of time aside for this. So gas mark 1.5 thereabouts, and then leave that in for 2 hours, and then give it a check. It should take about 2.5 hours to make, but obviously some ovens are a little bit different, have their own personalities, shall we say. So give that a lovely stir until the margarine is all kind of reasonably mixed in well. There we go. And we'll put in our spices. Here we go with that. We've got the sugar. Now, if you're cutting back on your sugar with this recipe, it's not, I know that does seem a lot of sugar when you sort of see outside of the finished product, but this will make quite a large cake. So obviously you're going to get a small amount. But if you do want to cut down your sugar, then you can easily cut this in half, because the fruit in here is full of, the dried fruit is full of sugar. I know it's natural sugar, but it's still sugar nevertheless. So you can cut that back should you wish to. Also got the ground almonds, and we go with that. Give this another mix. I wish I had some traditions I could share with you about making Christmas cakes, but we never did as a child. My granny used to make them, and we'd have one. Actually, she'd give us two, and then we'd have another one at Easter time. It was just kind of one of those things. I don't know. We didn't at home. It was my grandmother that did. So there we have our cake mix almost. So the last thing to do is to pop in the flour. So this is plain flour. I've also got a little bit of baking powder and just a tiny bit of raised. And I want my sieve. The reason I want my sieve is if your flour, you don't use the flour regularly, sometimes you get little lumps in there, and you'll stir it and you'll think that it's mixed in properly, but it's still got bits that are not mixed in properly. And this happened to me just the other day, so I'm really quite particular now about popping things through the sieve. And it just kind of makes it slightly lighter too. So something very satisfying about that. There we go. So let's move this out of the way and find a space. I'll bring this back, and then just make sure that all your flour has been combined properly. So just fold it in until it's all combined together. Now, if you want to let this, once you made the cake, you put it in an airtight container, it will last quite a long time. But what you can do is you can freeze it, and it's quite a neat trick, really, because if you just freeze it, for a couple of days, the freezing action kind of breaks the fruit down a little bit, and it's as though you put the cake to one side and let it mature. Is that the right term? Little sort of cakes, let the cake mature. So it's quite a neat thing to do. It just speeds up that process. So there we have our cake mix. It smells delicious. It really does. I know you can't smell it, but if you do make this, and I recommend that you do give it a go, it's certainly you certainly will enjoy doing that. Okay, right. Let's transfer to my container. Just try and do this without dropping it. There we go. And then what you want to do is just spread this out so that it makes sure that it gets to, I bet you're thinking, he's not going to waste that, is he? Well, I'm not going to hang around too much. And then spread this out so you get a back of a spoon, and just spread this out so it goes right into all the corners of the cake tin, so you get a nice even bake. Now I've got an extra bit here. You might think, why have you got that? It's just because if it starts to catch on the top, and it shouldn't, you can just fold that over, and it will just help to cook in the middle without the top catching. So that then will go into the oven for, as I say, 2 hours 15. You'll know when it's done because it'll smell, and it'll make the whole kitchen smell wonderful. But also it'll look like a cake. You can use your common sense on these things. But the real trick, obviously, is to get a skewer and pop the skewer in. And if the skewer comes out clean, then it's done. So it should be 2 hours 15. So test it at 2 hours 15 and then make that call, because obviously some ovens are different. And if you've been putting other things in at the same time or opening and closing, then it's going to take a little bit longer. But it is cooked on a low temperature for a while, so it's the sort of thing you've got to allow a bit of time for that. But you could try making meringue at the same time. Now, on the blog that I was mentioning with the associated with this, or if you look on our website, we've got a lemon meringue pie recipe. So if you want to just make the meringues, really it's quite a neat thing. You use a tin of chickpeas, drain the liquid off, and then whisk that liquid. Use the chickpeas for something else. You put the chickpeas in the curry, whatever you like, make some hummus, and then whisk, 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 whisk. It'll start to form soft peaks. So that, add 100 grams of sugar. You'll find this recipe online, of course. Whisk, 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 and it'll start to get even more like meringue. Then add half a teaspoon or thereabouts of xanthan gum. You can find that in all the supermarkets these days. And then as you're continuing to whisk with an electric whisk, it will then just start to become like a meringue that you would make with egg whites, and then bake it in the same way that you would do as if you were making it with eggs. So if you want a dry nest, then put it in the oven for an hour and a half, 2 hours or so on gas mark 1, which is when you can put it in with this one. And it really does work. It's a treat. But anyway, so there's our Christmas cake. So I'm going to pop this in the oven. Turn that down a bit. And then, as if by magic, yes, I made one earlier. Of course I did. I wasn't going to wait for 3 hours. So you end up with something like that. A really lovely cake, which you can ice, marzipan if you like, and ice on the top. If you want to do a royal icing without any egg, then if you use the aquafabia, the bean water, whisk that up, and then just add a couple of spoonfuls to your icing sugar, then it'll create a royal icing. So we've got that. I'm going to slice in a second. We've also got our nice buns. We have. I can show you this now because it's not as steamy. We've got our little fritters there, and we've also got our curry, which obviously it's a little less steamy now, so you should be able to see that. But it really is. The colour is so vibrant in here. It looks great. I know maybe with the camera it's not so good, but with the turmeric in there and the smell from that, it's lovely. So let's have a little slice of it. So I hope you've enjoyed this. You found some interesting tips. Do look on our website for more information about the services that we cover. All sorts of things on there. But from myself and the rest of the team, I wish you all a really happy Christmas, and have lots of fun and enjoy lots of cooking and baking. And we'll see you next year. So I'm just going to have a slice of this. I'm going to make a cup of tea, and then I'm going to put my feet up and have a little break, 10 minutes or so. I can get a slice out of that. There we go. There we have our lovely cake. Absolutely wonderful. In fact, I'll have a bite. I'll have a bite now. So I'll see you next time. But have a great Christmas and take care, and Happy New Year as well. Take care. Bye bye. It's lovely. It really is lovely. Take care. Bye bye.